Escape room. The board game we played at home always ended with me in a room alone. Everyone else was still playing, and I just kind of sat there. When they talked about me, they said, "She isn't here, and that's how it is." With such acceptance, but I wanted to be able to tell them I'm still playing. Living outside is what I got to calling it. The library by day, and then out on the streets to look for a place to sleep. My birthday is the same as you guessed it, and Dad held up her CD in the record store, and I thought I would just die. The best time to talk to him before he reached beer four because he skipped a few moves. Tarps hung from trees just off the bike path are only good in the dry summer days that scare the garter snakes down to the river. 3 feet long, and the last frog this snake saw was a kiddie pool. Putting a little girl in her swimsuit standing by the footpath, wearing sunglasses in the shade, saying, "My mother's down there." Point back into the woods, and a random man says, "Her sister is right back there." But the way he says it, you think he knows the family. Or if I knew them, I wouldn't leave that little girl standing in the woods by herself in a swimsuit. That's the difference between riding a bike and walking this path. The best chance she had was to meet the coolest boy she'd ever seen. He was skating in the motel parking lot across from Midas. She had seen it on the news before, this run-down motel with a giant tropical tree and orange and yellow bent over East Broad Street. Bookie had a swagger of her own when she walked up to the skater. Steve blew back his bangs, and from then on they sat on the corner of James and Broad, and it was a long light with them just sitting underfoot and too much traffic to chance going against the green. Counting to 100 for enough to buy Cisco, the two of them didn't trust food or the sun's place in the sky. She fell for every one of his lines, but he said they weren't making enough to keep a room, and he swore they'd never sleep on the street. She came up with the idea of staying indoors. "It'll be cheaper if I stay and you go out looking for work." He didn't disagree, but he did point out that buses cost money when he went to fill out applications, but by the time they can get some clean pee, the room will be due. Why should I try? We're going to be on the street anyway. This put her in a real bind. Bookie didn't want to go back to sleeping in tarp tents in the woods between the bike path and Alum Creek. Nobody wants to go hungry until they have enough for the dollar menu. I do know a guy who owes me some money. I could talk to him, but he's always wants to double my money. So anyway, I owe this guy some money. The first man to come through the door was this man. "I'm looking for some money." Steve said it would be on the bed, and all I see is you. He laughed to himself. "Mind if I see what's on?" She barely moves when he sits down on the end of the bed with her. No one could possibly think torn sweats were a thing, but he does. The next man comes in and keeps his coat on. "I'm kind of in a rush, so long story short, I'm married, have 2 kids, work at the car parts store up the street." He looks out through the blinds and turns back to her. Everything is orange outside the room, and the kind of color you know from an 80s paperback cover about population explosions. This does not stop the next man coming in. He wears a pig suit with a drink and a floatable, followed by a man dressed as a homeless Santa. "Sorry to bother you, man, but we're detectives looking for the man you wasted all of this money on his whores." The two of them blow up balloons that float to the ceiling. "Have you seen this girl?" asks each one as it floats to the ceiling. Photos of girls you know, the decade by their hair. After that, it was all the soldiers from the defense center and their families were on television saying they didn't know why men went to war and took so long coming back home, but Bookie knew the Odyssey and several other strip clubs that would give her work, but every time she went to walk out the door, another man would come in. Sometimes you could see Steed taking money at the door, other times he was in the bathroom with another girl. Bookie learned to watch everything from above the bed. She would look down and watch her father and the detectives talk about many times he tried to protect her with a wink to let everyone know. The street was looking pretty good compared to this, but the door was always busy with men coming and going, that she couldn't get out of bed and couldn't stop watching herself lie there with all her clients outside her room. They sat in chairs smoking cigarettes, read the paper, adjusted their waistbands, and used her floss. One day the strings of her body got twisted up. Bookie let some of the bugs from the mattress walk up the string to her fingertips. They tingled all the way up her forearm until it hit a part of her nether that wanted to stop feeling anything after this, so one bug after another crawled up into her brain until all the strings seemed the same. The room filled with men. She couldn't see the television. It was just trousers everywhere. She looked, how absurd, she thought. I want to quit doing this now. Bookie looked around, but not one of these men knew about the web linking everyone else to each other. They were able to come and go, but she had stuck to something else. Little pieces of paper were on the floor. She lifted the plastic heel of a cowboy to read what was written underneath, a cryptic message related to her fake ID. The pictures from 2 years ago, when she left the last escape room. Crawling under the bed would be too obvious. She feels the mattress and lets herself sink, thinking, maybe I'll come across the first edition.